Are you someone in digital marketing who's facing challenges currently in their work? Well, I'm a digital marketing professional with 10 years of experience, and today I'm going to be sharing two different stories of how you are presented with challenges and how you can overcome them. This is day 3 of my 75 Hard YouTube challenge. The first story I want to tell is when you are putting everything into a client, you are applying all of the tips and tricks and know-how, and you are either being met with no results, low results, client pushback, client resentment, and just how to navigate situations like that. In my last position, I was a social media strategist, but I also did a lot of social media management and like account management and things like that. And early on in my time there, I was given a client who was in the hospitality space, but not the traditional hospitality space, not like normal hotel management or property management or things like that. They were someone who created the fixtures that go inside of those buildings. The way that I understood it anyway was they helped design like chandeliers and living rooms, almost like an interior designer, but like one step farther. And so there were multiple layers of what they did that I don't think I fully understood, which was part one. Part two is the owner was incredibly difficult to get hold of. I only talked to like a part owner or a co-owner or a co-founder or like his assistant. So that also made it a little difficult. The third problem that I encountered during this entire situation was that this client had previously been handled by 2 other people and then handed off to me to try to save it. And I received all of the notes that they took, and I listened to all the accounts, and I got to talk to whoever I could talk to, never talk to the owner. So like I got all the information. I thought I understood it. I looked at all the previous things. I looked at things that got a little bit of traction, things that got no traction. And I started to craft a different mini strategy to kind of salvage what we could do. And so I was trying to talk to those people like at least twice a week, really trying to dig into any of the stories, get any photos or behind the scenes. Oh, caveat. They also were a company where the owner and like all the people I was talking to operated overseas. So there was also like a huge time gap. And because I wasn't freelance, it wasn't just my clients. I only operated within the business hours. You know, getting them to respond timely, to get on calls was very difficult. Anyway, back to the story. So I'm getting all of this information. I'm trying to craft a story. I start crafting content and creating things. I have no videos, only a few behind the scenes photos that are usable and the stories that they're telling me, and then maybe a few pictures of some finished things. So a lot of the content that I'm creating is graphic heavy. It's not photo heavy, but like there's photo elements, and I'm doing everything I know how to do in the book. I'm trying to contact the people. I'm trying to tag the people that they work with. I'm trying to tag the organizations that they work with. I'm trying to tag the buildings that they're allowed to tag and the companies that they're allowed to work with and voice that they work with publicly, because there were NDAs and all kinds of other things. And so from a social media manager, social strategist standpoint, I felt like my hands were tied in a lot of different ways. And this went on for like 3 months where I was trying everything I knew how. And ultimately, we did see a little success when it came to like blogging, just because I think that SEO like was helping a little bit, but everything social media focus wise, because there were so many restrictions and not a ton of content, things got recycled and reused a lot. I just did not feel that it was working the best that it could in that way. They also didn't have an email list. There were so many things that were a challenge for this client. And so ultimately, you know, after talking with my manager, I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to save this. I'm not getting everything I need from the client. I'm not getting their input. It's hard to reach them. You know, their social isn't performing. They don't have money for paid ads in the way that we normally run paid ads. It was just at that moment, you know, as someone who wants to do the best and wants to provide results, it was ultimately like a decision in my brain where I was like, I don't think that we can help them the way that they need help because of all of these list of issues. I think the only thing that we could do for them was to continue blogging, but even that required a lot of client input that we weren't getting consistently. And so I know ultimately we decided to let them go. They wanted to keep working with us because they wanted us to keep trying. But I was like, I don't know what else to try if you guys can't get us what we need timely. If at that point it felt like I was wasting their time, we were wasting their money, and it didn't sit right. And so when you have that many challenges against you, sometimes the right decision is to walk away, is to tell someone, hey, I don't think that I can help you the way you need to be helped right now, and then point them in a different direction. So I didn't have that conversation, but my manager had that conversation, and I believe she helped point them in the direction of someone who could more help them for a better price, someone who could be a little closer to them, someone who was, I think, a little more freelance and was willing to work within different hours and just be more close and attentive to them than we could be as an agency who was trying to work with, frankly, bigger clients. The second story is one where, you were presented with challenges and you were doing everything you can and you're seeing tiny results. But sometimes the client they either can't afford it, they can't maintain it, they can't sustain it, or, there's just something wrong. And I'm not telling these stories to blame clients. I really believe that it's a two-way street. And, at the end of the day, social media marketing clients are also business owners. They're trying to run their businesses. They're trying to sell their products or services and make money. And so I'm not blaming them for, not coming through, not following through, not being communicative, because I completely understand it. At the end of the day, you are running a business, you are running a team, you're trying to sell your product or service and make money. I get it. However, I think that when you make the decision to work with a social media manager or social media agency, you then enter into a different relationship where you are also held responsible for certain things. And in this story, this is a story of, we had a client who sold, I'm just going to call them kind of like children's toys. Children's toys are like children's products. There's way more to it than that. I'm being vague on purpose. But essentially, they came to us and they had a social media manager. They had a marketing manager who was doing the social media, and they wanted help with paid ads. They had tried a few things in the past, and they weren't really all that successful. They had little success during certain times of the year. And so they brought us in to do an audit of the account. So I went into their Facebook, Instagram, and they were also doing TikTok ads at the time. So I went in the back end, I looked at everything that they were doing. I pointed out certain key things. I think their campaign structure was a little too loose. I think they were a little loose with how they were spending budgets. Their targeting could have been a little bit better. And these are all things that I laid out in an audit. And then I reviewed it with them and I was like, hey, XYZ are the problem. I think if you tweak these things, it could help. They agreed. And then they signed on as a paid ads client. So we started running their ads where, the first couple months, I tell everyone, the first couple months are always testing. I cannot guarantee you huge success, huge return on ad spend right out of the gate. And anyone who does is either faking it or lying. You could get lucky. I'm not going to say you can't get lucky and, know your stuff if you've been in that industry multiple times. But this is an industry that I had never advertised in. We were still trying to work on their targeting. We were still trying to work on, what kind of ads worked for them based on organic social media. There were all kinds of elements that got into play. So we started running their ads and we were seeing a little success. They were doing almost break even for that first month. So we continue to tweak a few things, but as we're tweaking, their budgets are dropping. And then the amount of content that they're getting to us is not always on time, or sometimes we have to tweak it or make edits to things. And so, we're starting to see a little success. We got up to, I believe, I think at the height of everything, we were almost at a 2 return on ad spend. And this is expensive, in my opinion, a little expensive children's toy products that frankly, you could probably get a similar, not as quality, but a similar, cheaper version at Target or Walmart. And they were a boutique distributor, a boutique creator and crafter, and they have a beautiful story. I actually really like the company and the founder, just putting that out there. But I really think that the products were a little too expensive. They were targeting to, a more premium demographic, and the return on ad spend, I think at the height of it, maybe almost got to 3. It was like 2 and some change. And this goes on for months. And it's fluctuating between that 2 and then right below a 1, and 2 and right below the 1. And that's not including the fees to manage the account. So that's literally just their return on ad spend, like ad dollars versus what they're making from it. I'm in the back end of their website. I'm looking at abandoned cart emails. I'm looking at everything that I'm checking their tracking. I'm doing everything I know how to do to help them succeed. And at the end of the day, I really think that the agency fee is what was killing them. I think if it was literally just based on ad spend, they would have been fine to keep continuing on as a client. But I think that agency fee is what ultimately led them to be like, hey, this isn't working. We're not seeing a complete return on their ad spend. And before it got to that point, I really believe that, we tried everything. We offered to help supplement some of the content. We offered to help get more photos and videos for them. We offered to create additional items based on the raw footage if they could get that to us. And all of those opinions were shot down. We tweaked their abandoned cart emails, made sure they were running. We tested several times. There were so many things that we implemented and tried and were persistent. And I believe my manager offered a discount and like payment plans. There were all kinds of steps that we tried to help them with when it came to the challenge that we knew they were facing, which was, not a complete return on ad spend, or not a satisfactory return on ad spend. They were getting a tiny return, but that agency fee, like I said, is what was killing their budget and their vibes. So that's a lot. I think ultimately, when it comes to doing this type of work, when you're not seeing the results that you want as a professional, one, that's difficult, especially if you're doing everything you know how to do and everything within your power. It's difficult to be like, man, I failed. But at the same time, I think it's important to know that you share that responsibility with that client, especially if they're not holding up their end of the bargain. Or when it comes to the financial aspect, that's completely out of your control. Truthfully, the company in the second story, they were having some issues before they brought us on, and they brought us on to try to help them fix that. And while we did help them sell more, ultimately, I think that, email marketing was way better for them than paid ads, especially based on the demographic that they were trying to reach. Retrospectively, I think awareness and getting people onto the email list would have been better than trying to do direct purchases, but that's another story for another day. But I think it's important to know that when you're faced with challenges or you're faced with adversity or difficult clients or difficult situations, a few things that help me get through is, one, stay calm. Nobody wants you to freak out. If you freak out or your energy gets off, then the client's energy gets off and everyone can feel that and no one's happy. The second thing is just understanding that it's not completely your fault, especially if you start implying all of the tactics that doing extra research, trying to make changes, offering suggestions. You are doing everything within your power. If you're doing everything within your power to make the situation better, then, it's not completely your fault, and it's ultimately not completely all your failure. And the third thing is to learn from those situations. You have to look back and acknowledge what was your fault, what could you have done better, is there anything that happened that was outside of your control, and factor all of those things in to those situations. Ultimately, for both of those stories, those clients left us. I learned so much about paid ads and organic social and what works and what doesn't, and how often I think you should be showing up and what you should be saying. Storytelling is such a buzzword right now, but I honestly 100% believe in it. And when it comes to the content that we were producing, I think it was as beautiful as it could be. The copy was as good as I think it could have been. Ultimately, I think in the first story, things boiled down to just communication and, expected results. And then in the second story, I think it boiled down to just budgetary restraints and, a mismatch of where successful effort should have been allocated. I learned from those two experiences. I believe they helped make me a better marketer. They helped me understand the business owner version and side of things way more than the digital marketer side of things. And so I now have these stories to share, these lessons to pass on. And I hope that, anyone who's in the digital marketing or social media marketing space who listens to this stories understands that you're not alone and it's not uncommon and these things happen and they come up. But the most important thing is to learn and grow from them. So thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Hit the subscribe button if you don't mind. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.